things that you have to manage. You have to manage by the rules of the game which today's world follows, which is you can't use excessive government intervention. And I feel, going back to the earlier topic, at times we make the mistake of thinking that we can control everything. If we could control everything and nicely, it is fine. Just that government stretches itself trying to control lots of things, and it controls those things badly. Even capital inflows and outflows, nowadays there are market-oriented mechanisms for controlling. And my own preference is to use those. If you want to control, you use those to control instead of going in with very ham-handed legislation, which then you can't, and people will begin to cheat the system. But this is the kind of situation that we are confronting right now, where the overall scenario is very good because India's two most important indicators, India is doing extremely well, which is the growth figure where we are growing indeed very rapidly, and we are doing well on the fiscal indicators front. Our chronic problem is the problem of poverty, large-scale poverty, for which I think our subsidy systems need reform. Also, I didn't have time to talk on another day when I come back to Lucknow. Fertilizer subsidy, like our food subsidy, really needs a reform of the system. And again, it's a question of thinking through and doing it, and I could easily tell you what the problems are, but I'll stay away. But subsidies in general for the chronic problems of the country. For more temporary problems, like the problem of the global crisis which can come in, there India is sharing a problem with any globalized country. Once you're globalized, you are vulnerable to global fluctuations, to which many people will tell you that then is globalization a good thing? To me, the answer is yes. First of all, globalization being good or bad is, at one level, it's a pointless debate. Globalization is a fact of life. It's a bit like gravity. You may not like gravity, but if you spend a lot of time discussing whether gravity is worth it or not, it's a useless discussion because you'll have to live with gravity. Globalization is a bit like that. It's coming. You'll have to live with globalization. Also, I feel on balance, it leads to faster growth. Without globalization, we would have much lower growth. Yes, we would not have the downturns, but there would not be much space for a downturn because we would be so abysmally poor. With globalization has given us huge growth, which also means that we have to be prepared for these downturns, which means a lot of input into policy making. Let me, with those words, stop. Very mysteriously, my watch has stopped, so I don't even know for how long I spoke, but I'll stop now. Thank you very much.
So we're now open for questions, and we have some of our volunteers who have a microphone. If you have any question, please, we'll have you just respond, please.
Yes. Good evening, sir. Okay. First of all, let me introduce myself to you. I am Dr. Harsh Mohan. Yes. Okay. Professor of Economics from Lucknow University.
Yeah.
And being in the field of higher education, you see, private sector participation in higher education is a necessity, it's a compulsion, and it's a reality. But how do we ensure quality, ensure or regulate quality from these private sector educational institutions, especially in the higher education field? Reference is obviously for the recognition of 44 private universities, MCI controversy, and then of course I went through this brochure, substandard foreign universities. How should we address to this?
But thank you. I don't know if I should say thank you because it's a hard question, but anyway, let me think about it. It's a topic, it's a question very close to my heart because my entire career has been in higher education and research. And I believe India can be a global hub of education. I've done a couple of writings, or if it is already there, that it's possible for India to be a global hub of education, but how? There are pitfalls on it. Let me just give you a sort of a quick calculation on the global hub thing. If you allow foreign students to come to India and charge them half the tuition fee that American universities charge. American universities now will charge about $36,000 per annum. Charge half that tuition fee in India. That way, with students coming and paying that fee, we'll make a lot of profit out of that. Will students come, paying half the American tuition fee? I feel that actually we'll get a lot of European students coming to India, European and American students, because they will save about $100,000 for 4 years of education. If we can provide that, I'm not saying this to benefit them. Though spreading education in general is a good idea, but they can help themselves. But this is going to bring in revenue into our higher education system in a huge amount. Also make India a hub of international education. And usually being a hub of international education also puts you in the forefront of the soft power of the country. We know how Britain, when it was a major economic power, it was also a major economic center. When the US is a major economic power and a major center of higher education. If India becomes a major center of higher education, it can also actually become a major economic power. So it's an important target. How do you do it? Again, it has to be a mixture of controls, but intelligent controls. My view on private money, and I wrote a dissent note to the Yashpal committee report when I served on that, is, there is no way out but you have to let private money into the university system in India. What you need to do, as far as I'm concerned, is you have to ensure that the private organizations don't cheat anyone. They can cheat in many ways. You announce one tuition fee, and then after the student has spent 1 year, before the second year, you raise the tuition fee suddenly 3 times. Then you're caught. You've already invested a year. Do you go out or do you continue? Then you put in secret charges, you slap on the students. Those things, there should be a very strict measure on that. But I believe you should allow the private universities to raise tuition fees. You will say that then what will happen to the poor, lower middle class students? They will not be able to go there. To me, that is fine. These private universities will cater to relatively poor quality rich students, which is good. They will do a useful social service. They'll take them out of the way and allow the government to spend its money on high quality students who can't afford quite as much. So to me, it's just rational. We should not feel bad that they are charging a huge fee and educating. I think they're going to take off a big burden out of the pressure that the government feels. Also on centers of excellence, India now has 500 universities. That's the latest figure, I believe. Yes, that's the latest figure because I heard it from Narendra Yadav, who I told has spoken over here. 500 universities. We try to treat 500 universities completely flat. Same scale, same kind of treatment. Now, even a rich country like the United States would not be able to run 500 universities and have 500 good universities. It would end up creating 500 mediocre universities. It's just not possible for the government to do that. This I say with an element of sadness because with my 17 years at the Delhi School of Economics, I have to say I cherished the flat system. Flat salary, it's across the board, it's the same, it's almost a socialist system within the teaching community. I love that, I cherish that, but the world has changed. There are 2 things that has happened with the Delhi School of Economics, with which I keep a lot in contact. Corporate salaries have gone through the roof, absolutely. So the top students who earlier would go into PhD and research, they are not doing that. From the master's level, they are going into the corporate world. And also the global world as a whole has begun distinguishing between good universities, bad universities, star professors, non-star professors. It is United States that started this game. I don't think it's a very good game, but having started it, the world has followed. Britain was losing its faculty, Britain changed. There are centers of excellence with special money being poured in, research money. China has adopted the same system. I feel today India has to do that. So I would go for complete transparency. So private money does not mean they can do anything. There will be rules, regulations, they'll have to operate within those, and they have to be completely transparent about what they are doing. But we have to let in private money because it's just not possible for a government to run such a large system. So, long answer to your question.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I am Arun Agarwal and with the State Bank of India. Sir, some change their ways when they see the light, others when they feel the heat. So, what is the trigger for our policy
Sorry,
changes?
I missed the main statement.
Pardon, sir?
And I missed your main statement. What did you say?
Sir, I said some change their ways when they see the light, others when they feel the heat. So, what is the trigger for change in our policy?